Without using a calculator, simplify each of the following. So what we want to do is factorize root 80 and root 45. And we want to try and use square number factors, i.e. 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, etc. And we want to put the square number as the first factor. So 80 can break down to be 16 times 5. So root 80 will give us root 16 multiplied by root 5. And the square root of 16 is 4 root 5. Root 45 is the same thing as root 9 times 5. So root 9 times 5 will give us root 9 multiplied by root 5. Root 9 is 3, so we get 3 root 5. So 4 root 5 minus 3 root 5 leaves us with 1 root 5, or just root 5. Now we have root 18 plus root 128 minus root 8. Again, we're going to try and use square number factors, and we're going to put the square number as the first factor. So 18 will break down to be 9 times 2. 128 will break down to be 64 times 2. And 8 will break down to be 4 times 2. So 9, 64 and 4 are square numbers. So root 18 is going to be root 9 times root 2. And the square root of 9 is going to be 3. So we've got 3 root 2. Root 128 will break down to be root 64 multiplied by root 2. And the square root of 64 is 8. So we just get 8 root 2. And root 8 will break down to be root 4 times root 2. And the square root of 4 is 2. So we get 2 root 2. So 3 root 2 plus 8 root 2 is going to give us 11 root 2. And 11 root 2 minus 2 root 2 will give us 9 root 2. So root 80 will break down to be root 16 times 5. Root 45 will break down to be root 9 times 5. And same on the bottom, where we have a plus here and then a minus. So root 80 is going to be root 16, root 5, and the square root of 16 is going to be 4, so that's going to be 4 root 5, plus the square root of 9 is going to be 3, so that's going to be 3 root 5, and it'll be the same on the bottom except you have a minus. 4 root 5 plus 3 root 5 is 7 root 5. 4 root 5 minus 3 root 5 is 1 root 5, or just root 5. The root 5s will cancel and leave us with 7. So this is the same way as saying 7x over x gives us 7. So the x's would cancel, the root 5s would cancel. So you can treat the root 5s like a variable. Without using a calculator, express each of the following in the form a plus b root c divided by d, where a, b, c, and d are elements of z, so elements of the integer set, so positive or negative whole numbers. Okay, so what we want to do is rationalize the denominator by multiplying by the conjugate. So it's always going to be the conjugate of the denominator. So the conjugate of root 5 plus root 2 is going to be root 5 minus root 2. So all we do is we change the sign in the middle. So this plus becomes a minus. If it had originally been a minus, it would become a plus. We're going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate, because what we do to the top, we do to the bottom. What we do to the bottom, we do to the top. Root 5 minus root 2 multiplied by root 5 minus root 2. I've done out over here with brackets, so I'm using binomial expansion. So it's going to be root 5 times root 5 will give me 5. Root 5 times minus root 2 will give me minus root 10. Minus root 2 by root 5 will give me minus root 10. And minus root 2 by minus root 2 will give me 2. Because a minus by minus is a plus, and root 2 by root 2 will just give you 2. And then 5 plus 2 will give us 7. And minus 1 root 10 minus 1 root 10 will give us minus 2 root 10. So you get 7 minus 2 root 10 as our numerator. So that goes over here. Then we're going to multiply both denominators. So root 5 plus root 2 multiplied by root 5 minus root 2. So I've done that down here. So root 5 by root 5 is 5. Root 5 by minus root 2 is minus root 10. Root 2 by root 5 is plus root 10. And root 2 by minus root 2 is minus 2. So plus by minus is a minus, and root 2 by root 2 is 2. 5 minus 2 is 3, and minus root 10 plus root 10 will cancel, so we get 3 as our denominator. So just check, do we have it in the form that we want? Well, yes, we have a 7 there in place of the A. We have -2 there in place of the B. We have 10 in place of the C. And we have 3 in place of the D. And each of those numbers are elements of the integer set. They are positive or negative whole numbers. Without using a calculator, express the following in the form of a plus b root c over d, where a, b, c, and d are elements of z, z being the integer set, positive or negative whole numbers. So again, what we're going to do is multiply the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate of the denominator. And all we have to do to get the conjugate of the denominator is change the sign in the middle. So this minus plus just becomes a minus. So we're going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by root 3 minus 2 root 2. So root 3 minus 2 root 2. And then we're going to do top by top, bottom by bottom. So I'm going to work out 2 root 3 minus root 2 multiplied by 3 minus 2 root 2 over here. So 2 root 3 by root 3 is going to give us 6. Because root 3 by root 3 gives us 3, and 2 by 3 is 6. Then 2 root 3 by minus 2 root 2 is going to give us minus 4 root 6. And minus root 2 by root 3 will give us minus root 6. And minus root 2 by minus 2 root 2 will give us plus 4. A minus by minus is a plus. Root 2 by root 2 is 2. And then multiply that by the 2 in front. 2 by 2 gives us 4. 6 plus 4 is 10, and minus 4 root 6 minus root 6 is minus 5 root 6, so that's technically minus 1 root 6. So minus 4 minus 1 is minus 5, so minus 5 root 6. So we get 10 minus 5 root 6 as our new denominator. And then we're going to multiply both of these. So it's the denominator by its conjugate. So work that out over here. So we get root 3 by root 3 is 3. Root 3 by minus 2 root 2 is going to be minus 2 root 6. 2 root 2 by root 3 is going to be 2 root 6. And 2 root 2 by minus 2 root 2 is going to be minus 8. Well, a plus by minus will give a minus. Root 2 by root 2 will give us 2. And 2 by 2 by 2 will give us 8, so minus 8. And then 3 minus 8 is minus 5. And minus 2 root 6 plus 2 root 6 will cancel out. So we get minus 5 as our denominator. Now we can further simplify by dividing each term by minus 5. So 10 divided by minus 5 is going to be minus 2. And minus 5 root 6 divided by minus 5 is technically going to be 1 root 6. Will just give us root 6. And minus 5 divided by minus 5 would be 1. So you could say it's minus 2 plus root 6 over 1. Or you could leave it as it is. Either will do.